Hello everyone, this is Yours Trivia. Welcome back to another episode of our Black Myth Wukong Let's Play. So last time we wrapped up Chapter 3, and we're moving on to Chapter 4. There's a few things in Chapter 3 that I want to come back for right after we get our first shrine in Chapter 4, because technically we didn't finish the Fox quest. We have to go back to her body after taking out basically non-void, and we didn't do that yet. And there's a few other things we might want to check out. But overall, we're going to go on to Chapter 4 first. That's basically all we can do from this page. Chapter 4, 取度紫烟. The song that passed. Third character, not sure. This is sort of like Chinese calligraphy, so slightly cursive. I want to say that's purple.
哥呀，这么好的差事交了我们，真是大造化！大个屁！这一路挑断魔尖，骨头都累折了。你只快些走吧，休要误了我持久。
Two people thinking they got a good task.
药婆有些个怪癖。
That monster lady has a.
都要进步，每次进步必要成亲。 有次夫人来此贺喜，挑了面宝镜做礼，名为照骨镜。且慢，照骨镜。
So 2 monsters are carrying us, and there is a lady monster who takes in a marriage every month and eats the prey afterwards, eats the groom. And one time during one of these weddings, she got a gift. Ooh. The package is speaking up. I mean, we are the package, right? 八戒 is the package. Wait, 八戒 is not the one who killed them? There's no peace hiding anywhere. So merciful lady, or 菩萨, Bodhisattva, it's a common saying. Happens in the novel quite a bit. It's a callback to what Tang Song called the spider ladies. 巫山小妖. So Wushan is an actual mountain in China, but I think here it's not referring to the actual mountain since they should be farther along the journey west. During spring many years ago, Pansi Ling, the silk, the spider web ridge, I guess that would be a way to say it, is hosting a feast where people come and watch the flower bloom. And the small monsters in Wushan, Mount Wu, have joined this feast. And there are many ladies. So we're at the spider area, right? Pansi Ling, Pansi Dong. This is where the 7 spiders was for the original journey to the west. And we might have met one of the spider ladies. And Nu Pusa is how Tang Song referred to the spider monsters when he first met them. They were, transformed as humans, of course. And during this feast, after the monsters had their drinks, people started to, mock each other, make jokes. And one particular pig monster said, your cave, the cave that they're at in Pansudong, where the spider monsters are from, is quite generous. You guys have a feast during 48节. Okay, so the 4 seasons, the 8 holidays, they have a feast during all these occasions. Unlike us, where we're from, our lady, whoever their lady is, the monster lady boss, is much more strict, and there are no such festivities. A bug monster proudly says, I guess he's lower tier. He's calling the lady bosses grandmas, so basically 2 generations up. they're worried that your lady is too lonely. And that's why they host these feasts all the time, to find people to come here and, speak with her, chat with her, have a conversation. We can't compare with what's like in the heavens. But our second grandma, so maybe a multiple rank, right? Second grandma would be like the second one, the sister ranking, has some business in the mortal realm. And because of these businesses, money's not an object. Huh. And it's not as easy as it looks. If she didn't think of ways to add more things, we probably wouldn't have lasted till today. Kind of cryptic, not sure what they're referring to. We might learn more either from this codex or other codex. Another pig monster butted in and says, your multiple grandmas in your clan or your house, they all look amazing, right? They're all beautiful. Who knows which mountain gets this luck to have all of them as, the monster bosses. And the bug monster laughs. Our grandmas can't leave this area. So any business that happens outside of this ridge, they have to pick people to go out and take care of it. And that's why we always ask, find husbands from the outside to become grooms. And those who are handsome doesn't want to come. And the ones that do come, the grandmas don't like. Just take a look. The 4 from Dudishan. Oh, that's the Scorpion Mountain from the original novel. So 4 kids from that mountain. So I guess the Scorpion sons from the Scorpion monster in the original novel. And their family is now in despair. No more kids afterwards. Right, I think in the original novel, the Scorpion's king married a different monster and they couldn't have kids in the other monster's form, and the kids they did have are all scorpions, and they tried to breed the other monster and they had trouble there, which I guess is the reference here. And only one of these 4 sons that came seems to look reasonably okay, but none of the grandmas here want to marry that one. And if whoever bumps into that day where they should get married, I guess they set up a marriage during every one of these holidays, the 4 seasonal ones and the 8 annual ones. And whoever gets unlucky, whoever's turn it is, I guess these grandmas take turn to have marriages during these holidays, and they'll just marry him. Everyone laughs at this, and everyone's having a fun time until they hear this voice yell behind them. There's trouble. 2 of the ladies are in an argument. So basically 2 of the boss lady got into an argument. A couple of the pig monsters who are in charge ran in, still huffing and puffing from, running in all of a sudden. And they say that the lady in the cave, must be, out of her mind. And just because one of the young girls, spoke a couple lines too many, basically like maybe spreading some rumors or making some comments about the ladies, that they got into an argument. So basically 2 of the ladies, I don't know which 2 they're referring to. One is the lady of the caves who are here hosting the feast, and one is a visiting monster lady. And that monster lady's 2 maids maybe made some comments that were taboo here in the cave, and they got into an argument. And part of the argument is that the lady who's from the cave here tossed out some of the tributes and gifts that were brought by this visiting monster lady. And these monsters who are enjoying the feast is now in shock. A couple of them who are quite crafty and cunning quickly finish their food and pack some food as well, knowing that the feast is probably over. Oh no, they packed it and then gave it to the pig monster as an apology, and says, next time you're here, yeah, for next time you're here, this time with this kind of disagreement or this mishap, it's gonna ruin everyone's mood. And the pig monster, grabbed the food and stuffed their pockets with the stuff from the feast and said, "No problem, no problem." And they followed the one who came in to report the thing, went out and asked, what really happened. And he said, "Who knows? It's weird. Every time during feast, there's going to be some problem." And it's supposedly the lady of the house here is a bit strange. A lot of mysteries for us to learn. This is from the last chapter, the Yellow Brow. We'll check him out. So, Xitian, Western World, Western Heaven, the home of, Buddha. Dingshan, Spirit Mountain, where Buddha resides, at the top of the peak. Two people sit facing each other, and there's auspicious cloud around them, yet the mood is, there's like killing intent between the two. There is a young monk who stares up into the sky, and he turns around facing the yellow brow monk, and he, puts his hand in a praying stance and shows his respect and says, "Our master is ready here. Senior disciple, are you ready?" So this is probably the conversation between Yellowbrow and Jin Chanzi, who is his junior disciple. Jin Chanzi being the previous reincarnation for Tang Song, essentially a student of Buddha who made a mistake during one of the masses. He wasn't paying attention during Buddha's preaching, and his punishment was to reincarnate down as a human for 10 generations. And his redeeming act in his final generation would be to complete the journey west and bring the teaching of Buddhism back to the east, to the Tang Empire. And by doing so, he completes his punishment and return to Buddhahood. It's sort of a test for him. Technically, it's a chance for him to go beyond his current position as well. As the student of Buddha, he's not exactly on his path towards Buddhahood. He's still learning. So this punishment, well, it does make him go experience the suffering of the mortal realm through 10 reincarnations. He eventually gets a chance to complete his journey and, start to ascend on his path to Buddhahood by finishing the journey to the west. But this is way before that. This is when he and Yellowbrow are both disciples. Now, technically, their master are not the same version of Buddha. Tangsung, or the Golden Cicada, or Jin Chanzi, depending on which name you want to call him, was the student of the present Buddha, the current Buddha in this current world. And Yellowbrow is the future Buddha, Mila Fu. So even though they're the same Buddha in different time frames, so technically they're still calling each other, senior disciple, junior disciple. And Yellowbrow smiles and says, it's all prepared, and this is Yulan Penhui. This is a massive Buddhism meeting, sort of a conference for all the Buddha and the disciples. Every 500 years, it happens once. And during this meeting, there is going to be debates between the disciples about different scriptures. There's a lot of open debate about how to understand scriptures and understand essentially a lot of the Buddhism concept that is allowed in Buddhism, which is quite nice. But essentially, they are going to have a debate here. So the young monk, I guess this would be Jin Chanzi, raises his hand and invites his senior disciple to kick off the debate by asking a question. So Yellowbrow asks, "Junior disciple, what do you think the meaning of life is?" And the young monk answers, "To seek the truth." And Yellowbrow asks, "What is the truth? What tangible thing is the truth?" Or Jin, it could be translated as truth, or it could be like pure. It could also be translated as enlightenment. It's a very loose term. And the young monk answers, the way how everything in the universe, cycles through, how it operates, and the origins of the universe, the natural law, that is the truth. Yellowbrow doesn't, reject this notion, but takes out a flower in his other hand And the petals on this flower is starting to wither away. Oh, at the beginning, the petals were withering, but slowly it actually reverses and goes into a full bloom and looks very, beautiful. And he looks down the flower and says, "Look at it. Look at this." It followed its natural will, its own desire, 自性. So it's like its own desire. And thus, this beauty, this transformation is born. And then he, puts his nose into the flower and sniffs. Every flower that blooms will give off a unique scent that is unique to that particular flower. And through this scent, the nectars and pollens, this is how it, passes on and spread itself to create, more flowers. And this is the source of life. And as he says this, he lets his hand go, and the flower flies away and kind of opens up the petals and releases the scent, releases the petal, and says, to fully embrace this moment of, spreading your joy and giving out your essence in life, that is pure happiness, 极乐, extreme happiness, beyond all imaginable. This is a roundabout way to mention, sex. We mentioned a couple times how Yellowbrow represent a lot of sexual innuendos, with his weapon being like a limp, short, wolf tooth club, and he has the sack, which is, 人种袋, the sack of human seeds, essentially, and his preaching of enjoying, your extreme happiness and spreading life at this moment also goes all along with that. And the young monk shakes his head and says, to get this feeling of fulfillment, you must endure suffering and pain. And this will give you, in this you will never achieve eternal peace. And what you essentially will do is just repeat the cycle over and over again. So basically you're stuck in reincarnation, and the goal of Buddhism is to escape this cycle. Yellowbrow says, this time when I went down into the mortal realm, or left the mountain and go experience life, I saw that there are parents, human parents, who, for the sake of survival, 一子而食. So this is a term for what happens during extreme famines, where the parents are still feeling terribly wrong to eat their own kids, but they are so hungry on the verge of dying, they would trade kids with another parent. So 一子而食 means you traded your kid with another family, and now you don't feel so bad about eating their kid. But the cost obviously is that you traded your kid away and they're going to eat your kid. And he said he witnessed that while he's visiting the mortal realm, and that he saw that rich families with power and influence, and for the sake to fulfill their desires, so maybe a son of a rich family saw this girl he liked, and she maybe doesn't like him, maybe she's already married, and they're to fulfill their desire, they're willing to cause crime, to break the rules, and basically use their influence to fulfill their desires. And the young monk, after hearing this, frowns in his brow and then looks at his senior disciple. It doesn't say anything as the Yellowbrow continues. Those who are wise and well-read and are talents, for the sake of leaving their name on the pages of history, they're willing to use their influence power to get rid of political enemies. And for those who have accomplished much on the battlefield, to get more wealth and personal benefit from the result of battle, they're willing to exterminate whole cities or wipe out whole clans. But none of these stories deter the young monk, who just says, "Senior disciple, what you don't see behind the trading of kids are the parents who, after eating a full meal, will experience a lifetime of regret. And what you don't see behind that lustful young man from a rich family is that their ruleless life will eventually lead to a quick death. So basically, you take too many advantages, eventually you bump into someone who you can't take advantage, and it's very likely that they end up dying for their action, as they might, pick on someone who their family can't beat. And for those who are, wise scholars or talents, the moment they lose power at court, everyone, thousands of people, basically, the pages of history will judge them. And those generals who like to kill, who enjoy to kill, they can never get a night of peaceful rest. And these are all things that they, chose themselves. So basically, for every action, there is a reaction, a punishment, something that you do see one side of things, but at the, there's always sort of karma involved in Buddhism terms. Yellowbrow, refutes this and says 放屁, which means to fart. And this, as I explained, it's the name of the ending cinematic as well. Essentially, to fart is similar to saying, bullshit in English. It just means nonsense. It means I don't believe this. This is bullshit. But here it's fart or 放屁. And the young monk says, nonsense? And Yellowbrow says, this struggle, this joy, this determination, this feeling of happiness, and the experience of pain, suffering, happiness, all this in an eternal cycle is to fulfill a forever unfulfilled desire. So basically, we have greed. We have unlimited greed. It's never ending. And this is the source of the thriving of the mortal realm. So this is almost like a capitalism view, right? The reason why you have competition is driven by greed, right? In capitalism, it's more restricted to corporate greed, but corporate greed will drive competition, supposedly bringing down prices, supposedly adding competition, supposedly reaching the most efficient form. And Yellowbrow is kind of preaching upon this as well, but in a much grander scale, right? In the entire mortal realm, it's the source of the thriving nature of mortal realm is this desire, unfulfilled greed, never fulfilling, right? And naturally, because this is the way, this must be the true meaning of life. And the young monk says, senior disciple, you're not seeking to understand how to escape this, but instead you are praising the suffering of eternal reincarnation. And Yellowbrow says, well, junior disciple, if we escape this and we end up with no joy and no worries, then what is there to understand, right? If you have detached yourself from everything, then at that point, you're not really seeking to understand anything anymore. He has an interesting take on this. And the young monk says, yes, at that point, there is no understanding. And it's actually just pain. And Yellowbrow ends this debate saying, pain is love, and love is pain. If you don't have love and you don't have pain, and then there is no salvation. Interesting view. We get an entry for 小西天土地. Wait, I'm missing an entry. Might be the fox. Might have to go back and grab it. But this is the soil deity here in the lesser Western world from the last stage. We met him, I think, only once. He turned us into a bat and kind of just guided us away. I think he showed up at the end as well, but he didn't really have a line at that point. The Celestial Court picks these local soil deities, and typically they like to pick monsters who represent, different type of herbs or floral or trees. But here in the lesser Western world, it has always been a wind deity who has made a name for himself as the local soil deity. So soil deity doesn't mean they're a deity of the soil. It means they're like a local deity. And this particular one, he's not very low key, and he doesn't really do his job. He doesn't tend to the growing of the 5 grains. So basically, this is just, he doesn't really care about the agriculture, maintaining, the wind, the rain, the soil quality. That's typically what a soil deity is supposed to do. But instead, he likes to fortune tell. He likes to ask the heavens about what's going to happen next. And even though he comes from the Western world, he doesn't like Buddhism scriptures. So Western world here is just like a phrase representing like Buddhism realm. Like lesser Western world would be the name of the place, and to represent that's more of a Buddhism place. And this particular soul, he doesn't like to read scriptures, which kind of makes sense, right? The celestial court picks these, so they're Taoist deities technically, who's answering to the celestial emperor, so like the head Taoist deity. And instead, he likes to practice fortune telling. Essentially, he doesn't care about Buddhism scriptures. And in this land, on the east side, there is a ridge filled with vines. This is another thing. So the reason why people like literary critics are so sure that the chapter on Yellowbrow from the book is full of sexual innuendos is because how the chapters were structured. It's a pathway down the genitalia, basically. Right before the journey to the west reached this area, they travel through this area, which is a ridge full with, vines and spikes and thorns. And that's kind of representing pubic hair. And then eventually, after they escape this area, they end up bumping into another mice monster who lives down this well. And this well is called the endless well. Like there's no end to the depth of it. And that's like representing the female genitalia after you move down, this entire path, and it's like structured that way. Essentially, they're telling us where things are, and the land around this area is not very fertile. And every time there's a guest that goes through, the soil deity shows up and says, I'm going to have to give you a fortune, right? He just forces a fortune upon these guests. But when he gives out these fortunes, he leaves them a riddle. And those who actually care about, like, who are superstitious, when they pay too much attention to these fortunes that he gives, they end up falling for his, I guess, trickery. He has some sort of a setup with his fortunes that he gives out. And one day when this traveler passed by, he showed up, forced a fortune on him, and says that it's a sign of great danger. And this made him feel very scared. So he asked him how to solve it. And the soil deity, trying to act mysterious, says that there's a secret way where we can turn this danger into good fortune. But you need to pay a heavy cost in gold. So basically pay up. And he believed it, the traveler, and gave up all the money he was carrying. And the soil deity pointed to a small path and says, go there quickly. So this traveler followed what he said and actually got through the ridge safely and left the ridge. The soil deity saw this and laughed. The art of fortune telling, it's not within the signs the heaven give. It's actually what's in a person's heart. The direction that the person's heart points to is the direction of fortune or misfortune. Essentially, being a good fortune teller is not about reading the signs of heaven, but it's about reading the person who's asking the fortune, right? So if you sense that he is the type to be superstitious, you can give him something like this and he will fall for it. But ever since he got through safely, the story of this soil deity who gives fortune spread. And from that point on, anytime someone travels through, they feel honored to receive a fortune from the soil deity. All right, and then we have 18 new monsters, or technically 19, right? Because we got one for this area. We got 12 more elites. Well, we know there's going to be a frog. only 5 more bosses. Okay, I mean, about 16 for the first 3 stages, 5 more, so staying on average. 4 more entries, but technically only 3, because I think that should be the fox, right? It's from the previous chapter. And how many... I guess we won't know this until we actually get our first spot. Baji is still with us. So yeah, as... I think he killed a couple cow monsters here. Maybe pig, because we did get the entry for pig. This one's definitely a pig, right? Those are tusks. Looks like boar tusks. Oh, this one's also a pig, right? Now if I look at them that way, that is definitely a pig. So, we can't hit him anymore. But in the previous stage, someone did mention that if you do hit them, when you first get him out in the snow, you can actually trigger him to hit you back. Even though you take no damage, you do get knocked down. I think this is the starting area. I don't think there's anything here, but just... Oh. Maybe I'm wrong. We did see one of the spider ladies show up over there on top of the roof. And there is an entryway over there. Seems like there's people living up ahead. We can go take a look. It's like this area doesn't look like, you know, any normal human will live here. Must be monsters. Wait, did some bug pick on him? He's like, you know, look at this area. Even bugs pick on you. Wait, I want to check out the area that we just... There's a path the other way as well. Well, there's something hanging up there. It looks kind of dead. But it could be a, let's say, a spider hanging up and the web comes down. So in the original novel, there were 7 spider sisters who lived in this area. And they also had like a Taoist disciple peer who was a scorpion, a centipede monster, who was actually quite strong. The 100 Eyes, which we actually got a story about. Because we have one of Wukong's disciple friends from Puti Zushi, his first master, who got turned into that 100 Eye monsters after trying to take on that demon. Where he ended up growing like a sack on his back. Bachi's right. Oh, I got roasted. He said, you know, move along faster. You pick all these things and you never use them. I actually don't use that many items. That is true. Alright, I want to find a shrine. I want to go back to the previous stage and make sure we got that entry that we're missing. Now, pigs being used as monsters here does have some deeper meaning, but you have to understand Chinese. In Chinese, spiders are called 蜘蛛 or 猪 just for short. Pigs are called 猪. So they're homophones. That's gotta be something that jumps down, right? Or not? Bajie, calm down. Lan Xi Cun. Same as before. Nothing changed. What's a bug? I think it's a spider. Has a couple hands tied up behind his back. Bajie had a great time here in the novel. Tang Sung foolishly came in first alone and got captured, of course. One of the few times Tang Sung went to go look for food by himself, because they basically, let's just say the whole party arrived here, and usually Wukong goes out and asks for food, but that usually happens when they're in the middle of nowhere and Wukong has to travel far to get the food. But this time, because the houses are so close, Tang Sung insisted that he will go and ask for food because he wanted to set a good example for his disciples by proving that the master can do things. And of course he gets captured by 7 beautiful looking women who welcome him in and then try to hiding what good stuff. Yeah. Hurt my heart that you're not sharing. I think it's the same monster, which means we should probably take a look at what that monster is. Yep, it's a spider. Many years ago, the lumberjack who lived deep in the mountain, one time he came down the mountain to watch this puppet show. It's a puppet spider person. Anyways, he's watching a puppet show, and he quite liked it. And he constantly thought about it, so he wanted to find another chance to come watch it. I guess he doesn't leave the mountain that often. Maybe he gathers up some firewood, goes to town, and sells it in the marketplace. And then those are the opportunities where he might bump into a puppet show, and he quite enjoyed it. And then this one day, he's cutting, firewood in the mountain, and he hears this cheering sound. So he follows the sound and go take a look, and sees that there's a bunch of monsters who are, forming this circle around this area, and it's, quite rowdy. And even though he's quite afraid, because they're all monsters, he couldn't hold back his curiosity. So he climbed on top of a ridge, I guess a cliff, and he's peeking from afar. And he sees that this group of monsters are, in the circle that they have formed. In the middle, there's like a circus act. And because he's standing too far away, he can't really see clearly. But he can only recognize there's a monster dressed up in a red cloth, and that he is dancing with 2 sharp blades, and they're twirling, so basically some sort of sword dance. I guess in this case, there'll be the spider's two hands. And because it's so exciting to watch this sword dance, he couldn't help himself but to get closer so he can get a better view. And that he sees that on the back of this monster are a couple limbs that are tied together, tied by strings. And he immediately recognized that this is how puppet shows are set up, right? You have basically strings on puppets, and they're controlling the motion of the puppet. So he gets excited because he really likes puppet shows. So he picks out a big tree and climbs on top of the tree to get a closer look. And he sees that this monster is particularly ugly. But he still thinks the performance is better than the puppet shows that he's seen in the marketplace before. So, he's kind of indulging in the show until suddenly he feels this cold, icy feeling on his neck. And as he puts his hand to go feel what touched his neck that's kind of cold, he sees some green colored saliva. And he looks up and he sees he sees a bunch of big spiders staring down at him. And that their legs are connected to a lot of the spider thread, the web. And that they're the ones who's actually controlling this puppet from afar. So basically the performer, with his hand tied up with the webs, are being controlled by these big spiders who are on the trees far, far away. So now in shock, he lets out a scream, falls down from the tree, and this alerts to the big spider, who halts their performance. And all the monsters who were forming the circle to watch the show quickly looks back this way, and they all stare at this lumberjack. And he's, scared for his life, starts running, and he escapes. But after he gets home, he gets really sick. And no matter what medicine he take, he dies pretty quickly. So I think the green saliva was poisonous, and it got him, basically. Yeah, Bajie just getting a little greedy here, wants to see. Ooh! The green saliva poison. Not super long range with that, so we're fine just keeping our distance. And Bajie is going to help us here. Wait, where did Baji go? Just as I was saying... Oh, he teleports back. Well, that's definitely a big monster over there. And I think that lantern's being held by someone as well. I think we keep this well until we need to refill. Oh! That's definitely a spider, alright. We can hit them from across the wall. We didn't see what we killed, but we killed someone. Oh, a dragonfly. So the dragonfly monster likes to shoot arrows, and the mother of the dragonfly discovered he does have this talent. So using her relationship, she sent the young dragonfly to the Monster King to practice his skills. And when the Monster King saw that, he saw that this dragonfly disciple was a particularly good student in that he works hard every day to finish his training, and he's respectful to the master, listen to everything the master says. And even when he's practicing outside, as long as the teacher mentions him, he appears immediately. And this actually made the teacher question for a moment of how he is able to hear and appear so quickly, but thinking that dragonflies have these, really good wings and they move like wind, it kind of makes sense, so didn't think any farther of it. Then one day, teacher is teaching him how to add more monster power into his shots. And he says that when the arrowhead glows, that's the time to release. And the dragonfly monster agrees. But when the teacher is checking his progress in the afternoon, it's as though he never heard of this. And the teacher says, maybe he didn't take the lesson in. So he taught him again very diligently. And then when the next day asked him, he still doesn't understand. So he seems like he's forgotten it again. And this type of situation would happen more and more until he finally enraged the Monster King and he wanted to punish the dragonfly. The dragonfly becomes very scared, bows down and pleads for mercy, and says that, Master, please don't be angry. I have many brothers, and normally we take turns to practice and to rest. So each of us have only learned a little of your lessons, and this is why the next one, when you show up, he can't answer what you have taught the previous one. And after saying this, the Monster King sees that there are more than 10 of them that comes out, and they all look the same, and they're all bowing down there, and they're Kuto basically bowing their head, trying to plead for mercy. And the sight of this made the Monster King laugh. Can't determine if he wants to laugh or cry about this, but he basically sent all of them out as punishment as patrol monsters and said that, I'm no longer your master and I won't be teaching you any more skills. So even though you might have some small wisdom, small trickery to make things look wonderful, so basically they were able to use multiple copies, so basically multiple twins of themselves, to kind of give this image that they're super diligent, they're always there, they always answer the call immediately, gets all these praise. But what you're actually doing is you're bearing this time bomb that will explode on you, because the moment the truth comes out, everyone's gonna laugh at you, and you'll find more trouble. Basically, actually work hard. Alright, we got some diversion path. I don't even know what he looks like, but since there's more than 10 of them, I'm sure we'll meet a couple more. They use bow and arrow. Alright. Another Lantern. Looks like a scout. They're holding a curved blade. So I'm guessing a melee. Taoist in terms of cloak, which I guess makes sense. Because the centipede monster is a Taoist monster. There's so many will around, we'll just take it. That one thing is guarding that chest up front. Just says a ghost, a lantern ghost. The bug monsters hate patrolling the night because they have a nature of diving at light. So basically if there's a fire, they dive towards it. It's like natural instinct of the bugs. So this makes them prone to getting injured during night patrol. But fortunately, there's a group of refugees from the west, the blue-faced Yakshas. That's why they had the horns. So we seen the Yaksha kingdom getting wiped, and there's many refugees, and some came to this area in this spider ridge, and they settled here. So they volunteered to take on the duty of night patrol, and the bug monsters kind of agreed to this. Now, the Yakshas are a proud people and hard to obey orders. So even though they're now seeking refuge from others, they're still a group that kind of, live amongst themselves and keep to small groups. And every night they'll go out with these lights, and they don't really communicate with the bug monsters. And the bug monsters here see the Yakshas as sort of an odd man out situation. And they don't respect them much because they don't think the Yakshas pay respect to the elders as much as they do. And that they tease and make fun. They don't really understand the structure of the, not really bureaucracy, but just because I guess the bug monsters are more like local Taoist monster, more used to like Chinese Confucian belief of like different tiers. They're calling the more senior bug monster the ladies grandmas, and then the ladies. So basically the tier structure is pretty defined, but these Yakshas, they don't really understand this. They're from the West, and because of this, the bugs don't like them, and they keep to themselves, and this makes them, kind of the odd man out of the group. And what makes the bug monsters even more confused about the Yaksha is that when they're happy, it seems like the relationship between Yakshas are super close, but they would often, get into these heated arguments where the language they use to each other is just unbelievably harsh, and they don't understand this. Then one night, when 4 of the patrolling Yaksha were, kind of, they don't have much to do, and they're grinding their teeth, and ended up getting into an argument. The heat of the argument, the loud cursing and everything, disturbed everyone and woke all the bug monsters in the cave and outside the cave, and they came here to try to break them up. And says that you guys do this every day. You guys argue in front of the mountain, and then once you come home, you guys make up, and then you do this over and over again. What do you guys, why are you guys always getting yourself into these messes? Why can't you guys be like us and just be polite all the time? So while these 4 Yakshas were already so angry that, their necks red and they're just trying to get into each other's face, but once they hear this, they collectively refute this and says, you don't understand that without these heated arguments, there is no, advancement. Then another one says, disagreement, after we get a disagreement, we make up, we understand each other more, and this builds our relationship. And the third one says, yeah, that's right. We always help each other, and, we've been refugees this whole way, and even if we get heated here, it doesn't really hurt our relationship. And the last one says, our Yakshas, we're not like your bug monsters. You guys give the appearance of, everyone gets along, but deep down in your heart, none of you get along. You guys are also polite when you're out in public, but deep down inside, you have so many complaints about each other. And as they finish this, the four of them put their arm, on each other's back and left together. And all the bug monsters kind of rolling their eyes at them. I mean, they're not wrong. Like, we might be harsh to each other in public, but it doesn't actually hurt our relationship, unlike you guys trying to be fake polite to each other all the time. Why are there so many wills? Oh, he's rushing us to open the chest. Must be a treasure inside. There are a lot of floating will here on this map so far. That was the only thing guarding this? Bajie. Oh, he's gonna open it? Bajie, you do it. He kicked it and it hurt his leg. Oh! He triggered a trap. Little spiders. Many, many little spiders. Ooh, and they spawn more. How many are there? Is that it? I mean, they didn't actually hurt us. Okay, just some upgrade material. Alright, want to find that first shrine. Where does this path lead us to? Huh, I guess it's a weird divergent, because it diverges this way and the other way. I'm also just going to pick this up. We're not going to save this. Of course. Wait, he looks bigger than... No, same. Still the same one. Just maybe different weapon. I vaguely remember it being a mace, but he has like a scythe here. Yeah, the curved blades being very yaksha. Ooh, that's a beetle-looking thing. The lust is coming back. It's like, why did I tell you this? You're not into this. There's more than one, huh? Oh, it's a spider. Spreading some poison. Did he just fly away? Wait, Bajie, what are you still hitting? I didn't abandon you and run. I'm just checking this out. There's a chest over there. Spider webs up in front. A couple different corridors. Wait for me. Take everything. Don't leave anything behind. I'm gonna take this path first. We can take a drink. Such a narrow path. If I was any fatter, I can't cross this. Of course, we can jump down.
必有埋伏。
Must be an ambush there. Oh, actually, cannot jump down. Wait, what's over here? Oh, nothing. Thought it was a little tunnel. Alright, more spider webs up ahead. Ooh! Nadia, calm down, he's dead already. Guess we have to look up at the trees. Oh my god. They have rock. Oh! Wow. And what is up with this guy? A fruit that I haven't seen before. Yeah, they're holding different weapons. This one's more of a spellcaster. Maybe this one actually will drop a different codex. Nope, just different weapon. More poison, that's okay. What about this? Why is he wearing a rock on his face? Let's see. What is this creature? Cricket? 圆顶中. So there is this village that has a hot spring, and the hot spring comes from the mountain, and legend says that the water from this hot spring can, you know, make you young looking, extend your life, and this led many of the rich, wealthy people from far away to come to visit this hot spring. And one day there is a nobleman, a marquis, Le Chenghou, who came into this village for a trip. And he had a son who was just 6 years old. And his son, oh, it is a cricket, right? His son caught a cricket in the grass and carried it around to play around with. So people kept crickets for different reasons. You could have cricket fights, but mostly for the sound, right? The cricket will make a bug sound, and they kept them for like winter. Like the sound of summer and spring when these bugs are croaking or making their noise, it's seen as sort of a pleasant sound, and they would keep them in like a warm room in the winter, and to trigger that same sound, almost sort of like entertainment, right? It's like ASMR with bug sounds. Because he wanted to keep this cricket and play around with it, he tore off this cricket's wings and sealed it inside of a teacup. That night, the Marquis dreamed of this azure-clothed man who came in his dream asking, pleading for help. He's in great pain and says, "Your kid has trapped my kid. We're both fathers, and I hope that you can help me save my kid." The next morning, this Marquis calls his son, asks for the reason, potential reason for this dream. The kid is scared that his father will be too strict with him and just basically agrees to, tries to push it off. And the two of them can't really, because the dialogue wasn't, clean between the two. The kid's trying to like, no, he didn't do it, just mumbling, trying to avoid all the questions. So the two of them weren't, so the father wasn't able to ask, what exactly happened, couldn't figure it out. So the second night, this azure-clothed man enters his dreams again. This time, on his belt are a pair of sabers. And he warns this Marquis, says, if you don't release my son, then you're not going to see your son anymore either. He wakes up in shock, quickly go look for his son, but realize his son is no longer in his bed, it's empty. And he sends out his servants to search the whole village, and he can't find any signs of his son. But there's a peer, a student tutor. So basically, young scholars, the parents will find them. It's almost like a squire for a knight, but in this case, they are there to help them study. It's like a peer tutor, usually coming from a well-educated but poor family. They would accompany the son during all his studies, check their schoolwork, carry their bags, tend to their regular needs like a servant, but is there to listen on the lessons as well, to help them learn and so forth. But this particular peer tutor remembered about catching the bug the other day and quickly returned to the book room where the teacup is still holding that cricket hostage. And he opened the teacup, released the cricket into the grass, and the next noon, the son comes back safely. Only thing is, his two hands are swollen and he's crying. And when people asked him about what happened the last night, he, sniffing and crying, says, I dreamed of this azure clothed man come in who can jump really, really well. And he captured me, put me on his back and jumped around a couple of times. And I don't know where I went. And he blamed me for hurting, his son, I guess. He didn't say who. And used his swords to slap my hands 20 times. So basically not cutting him, but using the flat end of the blade and just slapped him with the blade 20 times. And when asked how he returned, he says he doesn't know and just too scared to remember. And everyone says everyone loved their sons, everyone in the world, not even just humans, so just monsters as well. Then a few years later, the hot spring suddenly stopped in this village. And within the ridge came out many monsters. So the villagers moved down the mountain to live. And then after another decade or two, the location name changed from, the hot spring. It was named Ganquancun, the sweet hot spring village. The new name for the place is Pansili, the spider web ridge. All right, this is the big white one that we beat up. It's a beetle, I think. But the name is just Bug Xiao Wei. Could be like lieutenant, depending on how you want, captain, maybe. It's a military rank. Let's see. Unlike the bees, the crickets, the various bugs, the dragonflies, all sorts of bugs here. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different type of bug who are considered the adopted sons, or not, sworn sons, oathborn sons, basically, of these, they're calling them deity ladies. I guess the lady bosses here. The spider ladies, I'm pretty sure that's what they're referring to, the monster kings of this area. The beetle, I'm going to translate to captains. Their status, right? They're not the adopted sons, not the oathborn sons. They earn their path here through, fighting. And for this reason, he is particularly, stubborn and, full of justice. And he cares a lot about how others treat him. And if anyone should slightly wrong him with their action, with their language, he would argue all day long. And because of this, all the small monsters says, he's just so full of it because he's now, has a captain rank. He's getting a little arrogant. Everyone hates him, right? And this day he, for whatever small reason, is arguing with some of the small monsters here again. And just swing his two swords. He says, I'm going to fight you guys over this. But one of the beetle Zongbing would be almost a general, I guess. One of his boss was passing by and just dragged him to the side and says, you can't always, use your military gains. So basically, you did earn your way. You did, this is all through your hard work in the military. But just because of this doesn't mean you can use your rank to ask others to respect you. You have to realize that the status that you have and how others treat you and how you treat others they don't directly correlate with one another, right? If you always use others' attitude to kind of judge yourself, qi fei shi zhu, stone spiders? It's not that they're disrespectful to you. Is that when you judge them like that, like you're also being equally as, classless in a sense as well. But hearing this, he fights back. The captain's, telling his general, you're the boss. You're the boss. You're our boss. And that's why no one dare to wrong you. But I'm just a small captain. If I don't fight for myself, then no one will respect me. The general says, let's say everyone respects you even more than me. Does that prove you are, better than me? You're more skilled than me. You're more high ranked than me. Ever since I was born, the required, how to act is just more and more. But you feel, so basically like the higher you go and the more people who have to pay respect to you, and you end up feeling less and less respected. There's more chance for people to actually disrespect you, and that's why you feel less and less respected. And when people ask what happened to this captain afterwards, people says same old, same attitude. He still fights with everyone who wrongs him until one day he disappeared. No one knows where he went. Maybe wronged the wrong person and got killed. Oh, stone spider. So this is the small monsters who were disrespecting him, and they had rocks on them. Oh, it does link with that story. Right, they're talking about there's some monsters who, because of their skills, climbed up to captain's rank, but after becoming a captain, he's acting tough all the time, and none of the other monsters really like to deal with him, and because they're avoiding him and not paying the respect, he gets pretty angry. And then this one day, it's a break day for that captain. He doesn't have any friends to meet up with, so he's spending his time alone, kind of just wandering around in the caves. And then he sees this rock far, far away with, thin legs coming out of it. And it's a hermit spider who lives in the rocks and who's moving around. Now, because these spiders have to move around these rocks, their legs trembles every time they move because it's pretty heavy for them. And they look really dumb doing this as they move around these rocks. And usually it's not a problem. But, this day, because he's hanging out on his off day all lonely, he's not feeling good. He wants to mock them. So he walks up to them and kicks them, flips them over. And when he sees that these spiders are, with a rock face down, trying to wiggle their legs to get back up, it's kind of funny looking. And then when he sees the spider almost getting, flipped back upright, he kicks them again and flips them back the other side and laughs at them this whole time. So he's being super disrespectful. I guess it's pretty clear who's at fault here. And no one knows how long he's teasing this until finally there's a couple clear, striking sound coming deep from the cave. And then you see a bunch of rock spiders coming in a crowd from the dark. And when the captain sees that they, are here to kind of intimidate him, he draws his weapon, charged into the spider, and fights them. Now, these rock spiders are not afraid. They're throwing their rocks. They're throwing whatever they're using, hermit. They're tossing, out webs. They're spitting poison. And this made the captain even more angry, and he's just trying to cut them with his knife. And he's killing a couple. And just when he's, building up his rage, there's this light coming from far away, and there's this sound that says, "What an idiot! You want to use you think you can take out all the spiders in the cave? Why don't you come with me? I'll take you under the peach tree, and we'll play there." The beetle captain looked up and sees this lady, this sister, his young girl, who looks like a deity. And his heart sank for a moment, and he followed this girl out. Ever since then, no one's seen him again. And one of the older monsters says, killing spiders in a spider's cave, he's really looking to die. So one of the spider boss ladies came out and punished him for it. That's why we don't see him anymore. I still don't know this guy's story. I don't think there's a shrine over here, but there is a yaksha. Yaksha Night Patrol. Oh, archer. Is it a dragonfly archer? That's what you look like. Ooh. And a cricket. Wait, what is tracing? Oh, Bati healing us, I think. Ah, we found our first shrine. I think we got everything here. Oh, and we missed the chest. Of course. Rock spiders. I'm gonna pick everything. We're a hoarder. Get used to it. There's a small temple here. Oh, yeah, the soil deity temple. Pretty sure the original soil deity of this area appeared in the original novel. He was quite the coward, if I remember correctly. Wonder if we'll meet him here. We don't always meet... Oh, we did always meet the soil deity, right? It's the... Ooh, so many spiders. It's the Jensen soil deity from the first chapter, the one who's the man trapped in the rock in the second chapter, the bird in the third chapter. Oh my god. Father says, don't let others say, you know, your uncle. He's calling himself our uncle, right? Because he's with Wukong's rank. Yeah. I'm gonna let him finish his story.
踢气球的姑娘全是妖精，给她捉起来，还绑了个花样，吊起来戏弄。可见，师傅虽是出家人，遇到稀奇之事，起心动念也是难免。
All right, Baji's giving sort of the original story a little bit with a little flavor, but very factual. So first he says, you know, don't blame your uncle, who people always say, you know, I'm full of lust, you know. I'm getting up there in age at this point, we just enjoy seeing pretty things. I mean, look at my master back during the journey. We got to this village, you know, out of the blue, he says he's going to go ask for food. Usually, you know, it's Wukong's job or my job, and I wanted to go on this try. He's like, no, I'm going to go. And little did, you know, we find out later that, you know, in this village, he comes in, he sees these beautiful girls. I mean, I think in the original novel, he says they're kicking a ball. There were 3 that was playing type of ball sport. It's not exactly soccer, but early form. It did originate from China, despite how poorly China performs nowadays. And then there were 4 others who I think... I forgot what they were doing in the original novel, but they were doing something that made Tang Seng kind of shy about it. Like, he didn't want to like speak up to alert them that he's watching. So he kind of like stood there for like almost 2 hours, just trying to be motionless until someone would like end their behavior. And then he basically sees these 7 beautiful girls. They tease him, invite him in, and try to feed him human brain and human fried flesh and human oil. And he's like, no, I can't eat this. This looks like it's not, vegetarian. It's not Buddhism approved. And they're like laughing at him, and they all take off their outer coat, and they show their belly button. And their belly button is where their spider form's butt end is, and where they spit out their web. And they 7 of them shot the web onto Tang Song, and they hung him up on a tree, and they even put him in a pose, right? They had him called 仙人指路 in the novel, where they put one of his hand behind his back and then the other hand pointing forward, and then they tied him where he's in a plank position, so he's like kind of doing like a Superman pose, except for the other arm's not like on the side but on his back, and his hand just pointing straight forward. He's entirely wrapped in spider web, and he's just hanging there for a couple of hours until Wukong and Bajie came to look for their master. And Bajie is kind of making fun of his master for falling for it, and it's like, now I think about it, my master's probably also enjoying these beautiful views, and that's why he insisted on coming in here. After beating Yellowbrow, we got ourselves some new sets as well. We'll come back and look at all these next time. I will probably start the next episode back in the original chapter. I want to wrap up the Fox quest, and then we'll come back here. We might have to kill a couple monsters again, but no big deal. And we'll explore the other side of this village as well. Since we took the left path, there's a path on the right as well, and we'll see if we missed anything there. So hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll see you all next time. Bye!